A routine traffic stop takes a shocking turn when a white female officer, known for her aggressive tactics, confronts an elderly black man on his way home. What should have been a simple conversation quickly escalates when she accuses him of resisting and delivers an unnecessary, forceful punch. Bystanders freeze in disbelief, some pulling out their phones to capture the moment. But what the officer doesn't realize is that this man isn't just anybody. His son is a highly respected police captain, and he's about to get involved in a way she never saw coming. As sirens wail in the distance, tension thickens. Will justice be served? Will the officer face consequences, or will the system protect her? The truth is about to unravel, and it's going to shake the department to its core. Stay tuned, because this story is far from over. The officer takes a step back, her expression shifting as she notices the bystanders recording. But she doubles down, ordering the elderly man to stay down, her voice sharp with authority. He winces in pain, his hand trembling as he tries to explain, but she isn't listening. The weight of the moment settles in. The man, still in shock, knows this isn't just about him anymore. It's about a system that has allowed moments like this to happen over and over again. A car pulls up fast, tires screeching to a halt. A tall man in a crisp uniform steps out, his badge gleaming under the streetlights. Captain Darius Cole. His face is tense, eyes scanning the situation, and then locking onto the officer who is still gripping her baton. The moment their eyes meet, something shifts. She doesn't know who he is yet, but he knows exactly who she is. The crowd murmurs, recognizing him. People whisper his name, and the energy changes. The officer hesitates for the first time, her grit on controls slipping. She reaches for her radio, but it's too late. Darius is already walking toward her, his voice calm but commanding. What exactly is going on here? The officer clears her throat, scrambling for words, but Darius isn't waiting for her explanation. He kneels beside his father, checking in for injuries, his jaw clenching at the sight of his bruised face. He's seen this scene too many times in his career, just never with his own blood at the center of it. The officer swallows hard, suddenly realizing the situation is bigger than she thought. But does she truly understand how deep of a mistake she's made? Or is she about to make things even worse? The officer stiffens, her fingers twitching near her holster, but Darius catches the movement. His eyes darken, his voice low and firm. Don't, he warns, and for the first time she hesitates. The badge on his chest finally registers, and her face pales. The weight of her mistake crashes over her, but she still tries to regain control. He was resisting, she says, her voice less certain now. Darius exhales slowly, his patience thinning. Resisting. He glances at his father, still on the ground, struggling to steady his breath. An elderly man, unarmed, walking home. That's what you call resisting. His voice cuts through the night, sharp and unwavering. The crowd murmurs, their frustration growing. The officer shifts uncomfortably, glancing around, as if searching for backup. But no one steps in to help her. The other officers on the scene exchange looks, their loyalty wavering. Some of them recognize Darius, know his reputation. He's not just any captain, he's the kind that holds people accountable. Darius turns his attention back to his father, helping him sit up. Dad, are you okay? His father nods weakly, but the pain in his eyes speaks volumes. He's been through a lot in his life, but this moment cuts deep. One of the bystanders finally speaks up. We saw everything. She hit him for no reason. More voices join in, emboldened by Darius's presence. The officer's confidence crumbles further, her stance shifting from control to defense. Darius stands, his focus locked on her now. Badge number. His words aren't a request, they're an order. The officer swallows hard, looking like she wants to run. But there's nowhere to go. The truth is closing in fast, and this is only the beginning. The officer's breath comes faster now, her eyes darting between Darius and the growing crowd. The pressure is suffocating, and she knows she's losing control of the situation. She finally mutters her badge number, barely audible, but Darius hears it loud and clear. He repeats it for the crowd, making sure it's documented. The air around them crackles with tension. More squad cars arrive, their red and blue lights flashing across the scene. A senior officer steps out, his expression unreadable as he surveys the chaos. He locks eyes with Darius, and for a moment, there's silence. The unspoken power dynamics are on full display. The officer who threw the punch straightens her shoulders, hoping for backup, but no one rushes to defend her. Darius doesn't flinch. "We need medical on site, and we need to talk about your officer's actions." His voice is steady, but the weight behind it is undeniable. The senior officer exhales, rubbing a hand over his face. He knows exactly who Darius is, and he knows this isn't going away. Meanwhile, Darius's father struggles to his feet, refusing to be seen as weak. But Darius steadies him, his grip firm yet gentle. "You don't have to prove anything," he says under his breath. His father meets his eyes with a quiet understanding. He spent his whole life being strong, but tonight he isn't just a victim, he's a symbol of something bigger. The officer shifts uneasily as her radio crackles. Internal Affairs has been notified. The words hit her like a punch to the gut. She swallows, her face paling even more. The realization is setting in. Her actions aren't just caught on camera. They're about to be investigated at the highest level, and this time she may not walk away unscathed. The officer stiffens at the mention of Internal Affairs, her fingers tightening into fists at her sides. The weight of what's coming is finally sinking in, but before she can respond, another voice cuts through the air. This isn't the first time she's done something like this. The crowd turns toward the speaker, a young woman, maybe in her 20s, standing near the edge of the sidewalk. Her phone is still recording, her expression unreadable. The officer's face goes rigid, but Darius steps forward, his instincts kicking in. "What do you mean?" The woman hesitates, then swallows hard. "A few months ago, she stopped my brother. He was just walking home, and she accused him of looking suspicious. He tried to explain, but she got aggressive, just like tonight." She glances at the officer, her voice shaking now. She shoved him, slammed him against the car. He didn't fight back, but she said he resisted. Darius's jaw tightens. "What happened to him?" She exhales sharply. "He got arrested, spent 2 nights in jail before they finally dropped the charges." She looks down, her fingers gripping her phone. "He wanted to report it, but he was scared, said no one would believe him." The officer shakes her head quickly. "That's not true," she blurts out, her voice high and defensive. "That's not what happened." Darius doesn't look at her. His focus stays on the young woman. "Did he file a complaint?" She shakes her head. "No, but I still have the video." The crowd murmurs, a new layer of anger building. Darius exhales slowly. This isn't just about his father anymore. This is bigger. And now, with another witness, the department won't be able to ignore what's happening. The officer takes a step back, her confidence unraveling. She thought this was just another night, another routine stop. But she had no idea her past was about to catch up with her, and now the whole world is watching. The tension is suffocating. The officer's face is pale now, her eyes darting between Darius, the young woman, and the growing crowd. The weight of the accusations is crushing her, but before she can say another word, a new voice cuts through the night. "Officer Reynolds." Everyone turns as the senior officer steps forward, his expression unreadable. "You're being placed on administrative leave, effective immediately." The words hit like a thunderclap. The officer's mouth opens, but nothing comes out. Her hands shake as she instinctively reaches for her badge, but the senior officer stops her. "Internal Affairs will handle the rest." A ripple moves through the crowd, part relief, part disbelief. For so long, moments like this have ended with no consequences. But tonight, something is different. The cameras are rolling, the witnesses are speaking up. And there's one more surprise no one saw coming. Darius's father, still standing tall despite his injuries, takes a slow step forward. "Son," he says quietly, looking at Darius with something unreadable in his eyes. "You need to see this." He reaches into his pocket, pulling out a folded piece of paper. Darius takes it, confused, but as his eyes scan the words, his expression changes. His breath catches. The letter is official, from Internal Affairs, and it isn't about tonight, it's dated weeks ago. Darius looks up sharply. "You already filed a complaint?" he asks his father. His father nods. "Not just me, others." He gestures toward the young woman. "I knew it wouldn't be enough on its own, but now they can't ignore it." The officer stares, realization dawning too late. This was never just one moment. This was the breaking point of something much bigger. And this time, the truth is finally coming out. The officer stands frozen, the reality of her actions crashing down on her. There's no way out now. Too many eyes, too much evidence. The senior officer signals for her to turn over her badge and gun. With shaky hands, she unclips them from her belt, her face blank. Just like that, her career is slipping through her fingers. Darius exhales, the tension in his shoulders easing slightly. His father was already fighting this battle before tonight. He had been gathering proof, speaking with others who had experienced the same abuse. But now there was no room for doubt. The truth had played out in real time, in front of cameras, in front of a crowd. There would be no quiet cover-up this time. The young woman lets out a breath she didn't realize she was holding. "So what happens now?" she asks. Darius looks around, taking in the faces of the people who stood their ground, who refused to stay silent. "Now, we make sure this isn't forgotten," he says. "We make sure they follow through." An ambulance arrives, and Darius helps his father toward it. He doesn't want to leave, but his father pats his arm. "I'll be fine," he assures him. "You did good tonight." As the officer is led away, the crowd slowly starts to disperse. But the impact of what happened will linger. This wasn't just about one bad cop. It was about accountability, about change. Darius watches as his father climbs into the ambulance, then looks back at the city around him. Tonight was just one battle, but the fight wasn't over. And as long as he had a voice, he would use it, because the truth deserved to be heard.